You already know why nothing is changing. Every day looks like effort, but your behavior never reaches the point of real commitment. You stay close to action, but never fully enter it. You open the task, you look at it, and within seconds your attention shifts somewhere safer. Not because you are confused, but because clarity would remove your excuse. A notification appears, you check it. A small delay turns into a direction change. And suddenly, the thing you said you would do right now becomes something you'll return to later. You don't call it avoidance, you call it preparation. You call it organizing your thoughts. But nothing is being built in that space, only distance. And this is where most people lie to themselves. This is where most people lie to themselves. Because you feel busy, you feel engaged, you feel like you're moving through your day with intention. But if you look closely, the only thing you're consistently doing is staying just outside the moment that requires full responsibility. Even right now, there's probably something you postponed earlier today. Something simple, something you fully understood, but didn't act on. And it's still sitting there in your mind. Not loud, not urgent, just unfinished. And that unfinished weight is what you've learned to live with, not solve, live with. What's happening here isn't random behavior. It follows a structure that repeats itself quietly until it feels normal. There are 3 internal mechanisms running your decisions. The first is self-deception. You don't reject the task, you reframe it. I'll do it when I'm more focused. I just need the right moment. I'm still getting ready. But nothing about readiness is actually changing. You're just delaying confrontation while keeping the identity of someone who intends to act. The second is the avoidance loop. A moment of pressure appears, discomfort shows up, you step away, relief follows. And that relief becomes the reward. So your brain learns something very simple. Avoidance reduces discomfort immediately, and anything that reduces discomfort gets repeated. This is where most people lie to themselves. Because it doesn't feel like failure, it feels like relief with justification. The third is emotional negotiation. Right before action, there's a silent conversation in your head. Let me just check something first. I'll start in a few minutes. It's not the right time yet. You are not deciding. You are negotiating your way out of discomfort while keeping the illusion of control. All 3 patterns combine into a 4th cycle, discipline failure loop. You delay, you feel slightly behind, you promise to fix it later, you repeat. No collapse, no obvious breakdown, just a slow shift in what you accept from yourself. A simple example makes it visible. You plan to work for 1 focused hour. You sit down, you start. Then you pause, just briefly. That pause becomes the entry point for distraction. Not because the work is impossible, but because staying with it would require sustained discomfort. So you leave the moment, and you call it normal. 1, you keep breaking small agreements. The problem isn't that you don't know what to do. It's that you keep breaking the smallest agreements with yourself. Not the big promises, not the dramatic goals. The small ones, the ones nobody sees, the ones that define whether your word means something. You tell yourself you'll start at a certain time, and you don't. You say you'll focus for a short period, and you don't. You decide to stay with a task, and then you leave it. Each moment feels insignificant on its own. But your mind doesn't store them as separate events. It stores them as a pattern. And that pattern becomes your default response under pressure. This is where most people lie to themselves. They think discipline is about motivation. But discipline is built in these micro decisions where no one is watching, and nothing is forcing you except your own standard. Right now, think about something simple. A task you delayed earlier today, not because it was difficult, but because you allowed a gap between intention and action. That gap is where the shift happens. Not in failure, in hesitation. And every hesitation teaches your mind the same lesson. Your decisions are optional. 2. Comfort starts running the system. At a deeper level, this isn't laziness. It's comfort slowly taking control of your decision making. You don't reject discipline directly. You just allow comfort to speak first. And over time, comfort becomes the default authority. So when a difficult task appears, your first response is not action. It's negotiation. Maybe later. Let me ease into it. I'll do it when I feel ready. But readiness never arrives because readiness was never the issue. The issue is discomfort. And discomfort is exactly what you've been trained to avoid. Think about a normal work moment. You open something important. You feel a slight resistance, not strong enough to stop you, just enough to slow you. Instead of pushing through it, you pause. That pause is the shift, because in that moment, comfort wins without a fight. And once comfort wins once, it expects to win again. So next time, the resistance doesn't even need to be strong. You already know how it ends. 3. You don't feel the cost until it becomes identity. The most dangerous part of this pattern is not what it takes from you today. It's what it builds in you over time. Because nothing collapses instantly. There is no moment where you suddenly lose discipline. It degrades slowly through repeated permission. You allow one delay, then another, then another. And each time, the consequence feels too small to matter. So you ignore it. But your mind is not ignoring it. It is recording it. This is where most people lie to themselves. They think consistency is about big effort, but identity is shaped in the background, through repetition without correction. Think about a simple situation. You decide to start something serious. You feel clear about it. You even begin. But halfway through, you drift, not fully stopping, just enough to disconnect from real engagement. Nothing breaks in that moment, so you don't correct it. And that lack of correction is what compounds. Because your system learns, partial effort is acceptable. Not perfect, not intense, just good enough to continue. Over time, that becomes your standard without you realizing it. And then one day, you look at your consistency and wonder why it feels unstable. But it didn't become unstable suddenly. It became unstable because nothing stopped the drift when it first appeared. 4. The truth you already know but avoid acting on. At the deepest level, this is not about knowledge. You already know what needs to change. You don't lack understanding. You lack interruption. The interruption of a pattern you've normalized. Because every time you avoid something, you reinforce the idea that avoidance is acceptable in that moment. And when enough moments stack up, avoidance becomes your natural response under pressure. Not because you chose it, because you practiced it. Take a real situation. You sit down to do something important. You feel resistance. You recognize it. You even acknowledge internally that you should push through, and then you don't. Not because you forgot, because you allowed the pattern to override awareness. And that's the part you ignore every day. Not ignorance, not confusion, but recognition without correction. Jim Rohn once captured this idea simply. Discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. But most people miss the real meaning behind that. It's not about intensity. It's about interruption. Breaking the automatic escape response before it becomes your identity. Because if you don't interrupt it, nothing else will. At this point, the issue is no longer unclear. You don't lack information. You don't lack direction. You don't even lack intent. What's missing is consistency in how seriously you treat your own decisions. Because every time you delay what you already agreed to do, you weaken something deeper than productivity. You weaken self-trust. And self-trust is not emotional. It's structural. It determines how you respond when pressure appears, when discomfort rises, when distraction offers an easier path. This is the part most people avoid facing. They think discipline is about pushing harder, but real discipline is about removing internal negotiation. Not arguing with yourself every time something becomes uncomfortable. Not debating every small decision. Just execution aligned with what you already decided. Over time, your behavior starts shaping your identity more than your intentions ever do. You don't become disciplined by thinking about discipline. You become disciplined by repeatedly choosing the same response when it would be easier not to. And that repetition becomes your baseline. Look at it closely. Behavior, identity, outcome. It doesn't reverse. It doesn't wait for motivation. It compounds silently. So when your behavior is inconsistent, your identity becomes uncertain. And when your identity is uncertain, your outcomes feel unstable, even when effort exists. Responsibility here is not about blame. It's about recognition. Recognizing that every small decision is either reinforcing your standard or weakening it. There is no neutral state. Even just this once still counts as a signal to your system. And self-respect is built in that signal, not in how you feel about yourself, but in whether you follow through when nothing is forcing you to. Because the moment you stop negotiating with your own decisions, something stabilizes internally, not instantly, but quietly. And that quiet stability becomes the foundation everything else rests on. Nothing here is hidden anymore. You already see the pattern when it happens. You already recognize the moment before it slips away. And yet, the pattern still repeats. Not because it's stronger than you, but because it's familiar. You know what needs to be done. That part was never unclear. What's been unclear is whether you will stay with it long enough for it to matter. Because awareness alone doesn't change anything. Execution does. And execution always begins at the same point. The moment you feel the option to step away. That moment is small, almost invisible. But it decides everything that follows. Not once, not occasionally. Every single time. And over time, what you practice in that moment becomes your default response to pressure. So the real question was never about knowledge. It was about repetition. What you keep repeating without correction becomes what you rely on under pressure. There is nothing dramatic waiting at the end of this. No sudden transformation. No shift that arrives on its own. Just the same moment returning again, and your response to it. And that is where everything stays or changes. Quietly, without announcement, without explanation. Just the next decision.